So, ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes the President will arrive. I would like to ask you all to put your phones on mute and silent. Please check that. When the President, the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of Flanders will come in, I will announce them. I will ask you to stand up until the President is seated. So give us 2 minutes and then we're good to go. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please stand up? Where I'd like to introduce to you the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, the Prime Minister of Belgium, Bart De Wever, the Prime Minister of Flanders, Mr. van Diependaele, and the President of CEFIC, Ilham Kadri. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Prime Minister De Wever, Commission President von der Leyen, Minister President Diependaele, ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests. Dear fellow chairmen and chairwomen from all over the world, dear CEOs, dear Director Generals, dear guests. It's an honor to share this afternoon with you in the Bourse in Antwerp. During the golden age of Antwerp in the 16th century, it was known as the mother of all stock exchanges. It has been, in fact, the symbol for the competitiveness of Antwerp, Flanders, Belgium, and Europe for the last 500 years. My name is Ilham Kadri. I am the president of CEFIC. People who know me will remember that I often say the chemical industry I represent today is the mother of all industries, is the industry of industries. We could not have picked a better location, as this place is a symbol of how thriving business can support a thriving society. Madam President, in the turbulent times we are in, we need bold action, beyond business as usual, bravery from the European leadership. I know you were the driving force behind this clean industrial deal you will be presenting us today, like in fact you did during the COVID crisis. I acknowledge the courage in pushing forward the omnibus, the launch of regulatory simplification the industry welcomes, and the regulatory recognition for the industry players who need a level playing field in our European region, where a strong unified capital market is necessary. Indeed, leaders do lead in times of crisis. Our cri du cœur of a year ago is turning to becoming a positive hope. On the behalf of the 20 industry sectors represented today here, I personally want to thank you for being here with us, knowing you have just traveled back from Ukraine, commemorating the Russian invasion 3 years ago, which is a topic very close to Europeans' hearts. And knowing that later today you travel again to India. And in between, and just this morning, you have adopted the Clean Industrial Deal, the omnibuses, and the Affordable Energy Act. This is a lot to read now and to implement. So we want to share with you our first reactions. The fact that you join us today shows the priority you give us as an industry. 1 year and 6 days after the first European Industry Summit in Antwerp. We are honored and we are grateful. Today, after the welcome of the Prime Minister of Belgium, Mr. De Wever, you will introduce the Clean Industrial Deal. Then my fellow CEOs, and there are many around the table, will give you their input. To all, remember, just 1 year ago, we had 70 CEOs in the room who had signed the Antwerp Declaration for an industrial deal. Just 1 year later, we have over 1,308 signatures, to be precise, as every signature counts from across all industrial sectors. What a journey indeed. Today we welcome 25 sectors, 127 chairs of associations and CEOs amongst 450 attendees. But to all, be reassured, we will not draft a new Antwerp Declaration. It still stands 100%, and we will draft an urgent call for action towards the European Council in March to ensure all the heads of states help you improve our competitiveness urgently. The industry is in dire straits. The urgency cannot be spoken of loud enough. Just for my industry, the chemical industry, 11 million tons of capacity have been lost in Europe in 2023 and 2024 on 21 major sites, putting 100,000 jobs at risk. This is daunting indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, we ask for an industrial strategy at the core of the European region. We ask for affordable, low-carbon energy. We ask for more investments in innovation, for regulatory simplification, regulatory cohesion, in a level playing field, a region enabled by strong capital markets. In fact, we ask for a more assertive Europe. So, Madame President, this flagship initiative today shows that you care about the industry in Europe. And I want to believe that if the European Commission and Member States focus and go full speed to deliver on just two most important elements, cost of energy and the administrative burden, we can make Europe a continent where we want to invest again, where there is a business case to develop our industry. I'm a humanist and I'm optimist, but optimist is not a business case. This is a situation our industries have never seen before. So what I mean is that we urgently need actions that can improve our situation now, this year already. And when I say actions, I mean action, not strategies, policies, or plans. We must put all power, boldness, and bravery in the renaissance of the European industry and its prosperity. We need that urgency, that speed, and realistic planning to make this a reality. And to regain competitiveness, ensure high-quality jobs for Europeans, remain in Europe, and meet the goals we have set. It is 12:10. Leave no stone unturned and break all taboos. We are here behind you and with you. We need the situation to change deliver the deal, and we will support. To further fuel our exchanges, Mr. Prime Minister, now can I please welcome you to take the floor? Thank you very much.
Madam President, Minister President of Flanders, distinguished guests, 1 year after the Antwerp Declaration, I am pleased to welcome you once again to our port city, which boasts a long industrial tradition. This very building once housed the world's first dedicated commodity exchange, as you said, the mother of all stock exchanges. It was built by a German emperor, by the way. And the London Stock Exchange is a copy of this building, not the other way around. This was the first. In the 16th century, Antwerp's golden age, this place was the epicenter of European trade. From an economic powerhouse then, it has been transformed into a house of leisure today. And hopefully this transformation will not be symbolic for what will happen to the European economy. We don't want to become a museum where the rest of the world comes to visit to look at what once was the epicenter of Western civilization. On the contrary, I do hope that this historic location may inspire us to keep our European economy resilient throughout the 21st century. Frau Präsidentin, es ist sehr zu begrüßen, dass Sie heute persönlich nach Antwerpen kommen, die neue europäische Initiative vorzulegen. Es ist ein wichtiges Signal, dass der Hilferuf der Industrie von der Europäischen Kommission gehört wird. Ich begrüße Ihre Zusage, Maßnahmen zu ergreifen, den negativen Trend umzukehren. Because, dear guests, our European industry is struggling. Compared to 2021, industrial production in the Eurozone has declined by 3%. In Germany, it declined by 7%, and in this country, even by 9%. Some argue that the decline of industry is a natural evolution and that we must accept that Western Europe is transitioning into a purely service-based economy. I could not disagree more. Without industry, the Belgian and European economies cannot grow structurally and sustainably or even be maintained. Each country faces its own specific challenges. In Belgium, these include energy costs, labor costs, and permit policies. Together with the regional governments, the federal government will tackle these challenges to the fullest extent of our national and regional competences. First and foremost, through a long-term vision for energy. From now on, we will approach the supply issue with an open mind towards innovation and technology, and without ideological prejudice against any solution. The ban on nuclear energy was a grave mistake that we hope to correct as soon as possible. And I was particularly happy to hear that the future Bundeskanzler Merz wants to go in the same direction in Germany. We are also implementing measures specifically aimed at energy-intensive industries, including a reduction in transmission network tariffs. Secondly, there's labor cost. Our workforce is among the best educated and most productive in the world. It's an incredible asset. However, rising labor costs threaten to price us out of the market. By lowering labor taxes, we will reduce the tax wedge, which is unfortunately amongst the highest in Europe. And thirdly, we will also improve our permit policies. Through the Make 2030 agenda, we will work with the regional governments and industry sectors to ensure that policies at different levels are aligned and mutually reinforcing so that our industry can grow once again. Dear guests, we support the philosophy behind the Net Zero Industry Act. However, while developing new clean industries, we must not lose sight of the competitiveness of our existing companies. There is no point in subjecting our industries to regulations that push them out of the market, forcing them to relocate to regions with less strict climate policies. Neither our economy nor the climate benefits from such an outcome. A few years ago, I visited the BASF headquarters in Ludwigshafen, where Vorstandsvorsitzender Martin Brudermüller showed me the thousands of pages of European regulation on the petrochemical industry. All well intended, no doubt about that. But the best regulation will not get us very far if there's nobody left to comply. Or if new sectors like AI never even come into existence in Europe. Last year, our industrial companies issued a justified call for help to Europe. And I'm pleased to see that today, 880 companies from 25 sectors are already expressing their support for the EU industrial deal. There is hope once again. Madam President, as an export nation, we are deeply grateful for your continuing efforts in this regard. Free trade and economic integration have brought prosperity to Europe, and we must avoid becoming entangled in a global trade war. While Europe should strive to remain open for business, we must also address more effectively the negative consequences that globalization and free trade can have on our societies. Nonetheless, we must not undermine the fundamental principles that have driven our economic success. So allow me to conclude with a threefold appeal towards my European colleagues. 1. Let us strengthen and not undermine the internal market. The subsidy race amongst certain member states to attract industrial projects away from their neighboring countries is detrimental to the EU's greatest strength, its internal market. Let us go for that and not destroy it. 2. Let us reduce unnecessary burdens. Our current regulatory environment is overly complex and not in line with market realities. We must work rapidly and thoroughly to ease regulatory pressures. 3. Finally, the geopolitical context compels us to take swift action in establishing a truly European defense industry. National defense investments must inevitably increase, certainly in this country. But greater coordination and closer cooperation at the European level will ensure that these expenditures are used as effectively as possible. We must build an industrial complex within Europe that helps fulfill the core responsibility of every government, and that is to ensure the security of our citizens. We're living in complicated times. Yet another challenge, just what we needed, another challenge. Dear guests, I look forward to a productive afternoon, and I'm truly honored to give the floor to the President of the European Commission. Madame von der Leyen, the fact that you came to this city, my city, to outline your plans for the coming years is an honor that we appreciate very much. Dafür danke ich Ihnen sehr. I thank you.
First of all, I thank you, dear Dr. Kadri, for the invitation. Prime Minister De Wever, Minister President Diependaele, dear representatives of European industries and social partners, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be back here with you in Antwerp, exactly 1 year after our first meeting. And indeed, last year I came to Antwerp to listen to your worries. And it was a new start for industrial policy in Europe at that time. Since then, we at the Commission held dedicated dialogues with most of your strategic sectors, including a social dialogue just last week. And I must tell you, I'm very grateful for these dialogues because the results have shaped the priorities of my new Commission. And indeed, today we have approved in College the Clean Industrial Deal. And the Clean Industrial Deal, if you look at it, delivers on each and every one of the 10 recommendations in the Antwerp Declaration. So your central demand was to make a clear business case for Europe. And I'm willing to do that. But before I address the challenges, let me start with a quick view on the strength that we have in Europe. Europe has got talent. We produce 1/4 of all clean tech patents in the world. That is more than both in China and the United States. Europe has a top-class infrastructure and we are investing in it. If you take, for example, the hydrogen sector. Last year, final investment decisions on electrolyzers in Europe have quadrupled compared to the year before. That is the fastest growth worldwide. Europe has a clear roadmap and we stay the course. Last year, our emissions from the energy sector went down by almost 10%, while the consumption of energy went up by 1%. And yes, we are on track to achieve our 55% emission reduction target for 2030. And this gives you the predictability you need to plan your investments. At the same time, I know that too many obstacles still stand in your way. And Prime Minister, you have mentioned some of them, from the high energy prices, indeed structurally too high energy prices, to excessive regulatory burden without any question. We know all too well that production costs have increased, specifically for energy-intensive industries. The demand for clean products has dipped and some investments have moved to other regions, so we must turn the tide. And this is the central goal of the Clean Industrial Deal. We want to cut the ties that still hold you back, so that Europe can not only be a continent of industrial innovation, but also a continent of industrial production. And I want to highlight 4 areas on how we plan to do this. First, we have to, and we want to invest more than ever in innovation, innovation, innovation. It's actually one of the first demands in the Draghi report, close the innovation gap. Europe is a front runner, for example, in the global race for clean tech. Let me give you 3 figures. Here in Europe, we have 30% of all innovative companies in electrolyzer technologies worldwide, 30%. We have 20% for carbon capture and storage, CCUS, and even 40% for wind and heat pump technology. And this is where we can really beat global competition. But I know that too often these companies struggle to grow and bring their solutions into industrial scale. This is where the problem sits. So what do they need? First and foremost, they need access to capital, to finance. And I will not speak about completing a deep and liquid capital market today. This is absolutely for us paramount, the Capital Markets Union. But they also need public investment. As a first step, we will make a European financing instruments much stronger. Our Innovation Fund has financed many groundbreaking projects, including here in the port of Antwerp. But we also see that every call that we have in the Innovation Fund is heavily oversubscribed, and we have to turn down many of your good projects. So this has to change. And therefore, we will mobilize up to 100 billion euros to establish a new decarbonization bank. We will soon launch new auctions on industrial decarbonization, building on the very successful model that you all know of the hydrogen bank. So the decarbonization bank is the same principle like the hydrogen bank. Important is, this is a market-based system that rewards the most innovative and the most competitive companies. And this is just what we need. We need competition, we need them innovative, but they need access to finance. We will finance them with resources from our emission trading system. The message you gave me last year was loud and clear. You said, this money that comes from the industry should be reinvested into the industry. So that's what we're exactly doing now. So we're coming back to the promise we gave you last year. In addition, we will present a new state aid framework. State aid for decarbonization and clean tech will be approved faster, it will last longer, and it will give you more predictability to speed up the innovation. And let me tell you, I understand very well that it's not only in state aid, only about European competition, but it's about global competition. So we've learned the lesson of the last mandate. We have to change the framework, we have to adapt it, and we have to be faster and more predictable for all of you. There's one innovative sector I want to focus on in particular, and that is circularity. Europe has clearly a first mover advantage here. 1/3 of all circular technology companies are European, and I know that some of them are present here in the room. And if we look at figures, more than 50% of our steel, iron, zinc, or platinum are made from scrap. And this covers more than 25% of European consumption. But we need to go faster and further. For instance, China controls 80% of the global battery recycling capacity. And we still send huge volumes of precious waste back to China. Instead, end-of-life batteries could provide almost 15% of the lithium we need already in 2030, 15%. This is enough to produce 2 million batteries for electric vehicles. So, we need a paradigm shift on circular economy, and to support this movement, we will present a Circular Economy Act. We have to keep critical raw materials waste in Europe and give it new life. And this is not only good for the planet, it also supports our open strategic autonomy. Ladies and gentlemen, the second pillar of the Clean Industrial Deal is simplification. And we are delivering on the promise I gave you last year. Simplification is vital to Europe's competitiveness. So today, as you know, we have presented our first 2 omnibuses. The omnibus substantially cuts reporting obligation on this magic triangle that is taxonomy, CSRD, and CSDDD, and we also add CBAM, abbreviations, but I think you all know these abbreviations very well. This could save up to 6 billion euro every year for European companies. And this is more than the annual budget reduction target we set initially. What are the figures? If we look at CSRD and CSDDD, around 80% of the companies will be excluded from the scope of the CSRD and the CSDDD. Around 90% of companies will be exempted from mandatory taxonomy. And our CBAM proposal will exempt 90% of importers. Now, you can say, what is about the carbon footprint? Well, let's look at the figures together. These 90% of companies that we are exempting now from CBAM are responsible for less than 1% of import volumes, so less than 1% of the associated emissions. So the climate impact in this change is minimal, while the positive impact on the SMEs is huge. And more simplification is on its way. I want to repeat my call I did last year. If you come with good suggestions, doable suggestions, we're grateful for that, we want them, and as you see in the first omnibuses, we included already a lot of what you wrote to us. So a fleet of omnibuses will target red tape and administrative burden in a number of areas, but I also want to be very clear. Our climate and social goals do not change, because our commitment to the social market economy is unwavering. The social market economy is the foundation of our European single market. Because the young people would never forgive us if we did not rise to the challenge of global warming. And finally, because you, the industry, you need predictability. In other parts of the world, we are now seeing the impact of political U-turns for investments. We're staying the course towards our decarbonization goals, but on the way towards these goals, we will be adaptable, we will be flexible, we will be pragmatic and technology neutral. And this session here today is the proof already of the beginning of this attitude. The third priority in the Clean Industrial Deal is to bring energy prices down. You all said it, they're structurally too high. Europe's dependence on imported fossil fuels is the main cause of these higher, more volatile energy prices. The more we have to import fossil fuels, the more dependent we are on the global market. So we have to bring these prices down. And of course, we do not start from scratch. Since the launch of the European Green Deal, we have saved 60 billion euros of fossil fuel imports. And how was this possible? Because of the low carbon approach, thanks to cheap, homegrown renewables and as a base load nuclear. But we need more predictable prices than we have today. This is good that we have reduced, but we need much more predictable prices and structurally lower prices. So we need more connections across Europe, more energy offtake and more energy efficiency. And all of this and much, much more is at the heart of the so-called Affordable Energy Action Plan that we also have presented today and that accompanies the Clean Industrial Deal. The Affordable Energy Action Plan is a lot about accelerating the rollout of clean energy and electrification. It is about ensuring well-functioning gas markets. We have sometimes quite strange distortions of the gas market. And it is about completing interconnections and grids. And actually, earlier this month, I was in Lithuania to celebrate with them their newly won energy independence. Because what have they done? They have finally decoupled the electricity grid from Russia and coupled it to the European Union grid. And for the Baltics, this is not only about energy. This was very deeply about sovereignty. This is vital, and this is strategic. And we should do the same on our entire continent, connect our energy systems, upgrade our grids, speed up the permitting. I speak to myself and to all my colleagues in the political functions, speed up the permitting, and make our low-carbon energy available all across Europe. So we will systematically, with this Affordable Energy Action Plan, remove remaining obstacles so that we build a true energy union. Ladies and gentlemen, the last priority that I want to mention of the Clean Industrial Deal, and it is much, much bigger, but you can read it, is to adapt to a harsher global competition. To remain open to the world, that's so important. That has always been the hallmark of the European Union. Seizing the new opportunities that are there and connecting to growth centers. Since taking office last December, the new Commission has been delivering on this commitment. In the first week of December, we finalized a groundbreaking partnership agreement with Mercosur. Before Christmas, we concluded with Switzerland. In January of this year, we concluded trade negotiations with Mexico, and we launched negotiations with Malaysia. And as you said, the College of Commissioners will travel tonight to India, and we are also negotiating a free trade agreement with India. We want with India to strengthen the ties, expand trade with the world's largest democracy. So it's a lot about going around in the world. We have many, many friends in the world that want to do business with us. And my function is to enable this and to ease this business for you with other regions of the world. Europe has been an industrial leader for centuries because we have always managed to ride the wave of change. Our industries have constantly renewed and remodeled by families who passed on their knowledge from one generation to the next, and by disruptors who dare to leave the old path for the new one. So today, we stand again at a watershed moment in our history. And I know that together, we are ready for change, so that the future of industry can continue to be made in Europe. And that next year, I would love to come back to the Antwerp Summit to report what we've done in between, to listen how your reality was in between, and thank you very much for inviting me. Long live Europe.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, we take 2 minutes for the camera crews and the press to leave the room, because the next session is under Chatham House rules, which also means that I will ask you to make no recordings or pictures so we can freely speak with the President. So 2 minutes for the press to clear, and then President Kadri of CEFIC will start moderating the session. Thank you.